I'm so excited to have you with us, Jasmin, because I know I've been, trying to reach out to you for a while, and we've been trying to figure out how we can collaborate. And this is like a perfect opportunity for me to, jump on, because I have the entire LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, and my entire pitch was to bring amazing women like you onto this platform and have conversations that get us excited, which is the fintech space. So thank you so much for agreeing, Jasmine.
No, thanks. It's my pleasure, Mamlika. And I must say that your energy and enthusiasm is so contagious. And I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy this conversation.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. So, for people who don't know about Jasmine, although I doubt people wouldn't know about her, but still a brief introduction. So, Jasmine has been like a career banker. By the way, she is Dr. Jasmine B. Gupta. So, she's quite knowledgeable in the field as well. But she's been like a career banker. She's had some amazing stints. I think she was one of the people who was at the forefront of digital banking way back in 2015 to 2016, when things were getting just, we were seeing green shoots of digitization. So I'm super excited because from there now Jasmine has pivoted into a fintech company, which is a financial platform, which is a women first financial platform. Let me put it that way. So I think I'm super excited, Jasmine, but over to you for an introduction about yourself.
No, I think that introduction suffices, Kamalik. First of all, yeah, enough of introduction. I think let's go on with the conversation.
All right. So today's conversation is all about understanding neobanks, digital banking, and what the future of banking and financial services has for us. And I could not have asked for a better guest, because, like you guys know, right, Jasmine has been through the entire journey. She's seen the transformation happen, and she's led some of those transformations firsthand. But first things first, Jasmine, I would love to know what drew you to banking, on the financial side of things. But yes, what drew you to banking?
Yeah, so to start the story of how I got into banking, I think it was never ever pre-decided that I'll be getting into banking.
Uh-huh.
I think banking happened when I did my summer internship with Reserve Bank of India, and it was a very complicated project that I did with Reserve Bank on risk management of huge commercial banks. And I think the entire banking space, the world of banking opened up in those 2 to 3 months. And I think that's when I decided that this is one space where I would want to get into and create an impact. So I think HDFC Bank was the first bank that came on the campus, and of course, I jumped into it. And it was the best time to get into
Of
HDFC
course.
Bank because that was the time when private banking was taking off.
Yeah.
So it was the best training ground that I got in HDFC, and I think that was a super start. Having said that, I think the the best thing that happened in my career is, 2 to 3 years into the career, I was the youngest branch manager in the country at 25, 26, and people always came and wondered. Even the customers used to come and wonder as to why are you taking so much responsibilities? Why are you managing a branch profit center? But that's something I think which used to give me a high, that it is something, but it never came across as work. It always came across as passion, and I think
Yeah.
that's what has driven me so far.
That is so amazing. By the way, I must say, the first time that we caught up virtually, also, I honestly thought you were my age. So, yes, you still look very young, Jasmine.
Thanks for the compliment, Kamalika. Yeah, but I don't. I don't think so. Yeah, so good.
But all right, moving on. I'm just hoping that we're audible now on the video live, because Meghnath was telling us that okay, Meghnath has given that it's good now. Thank you, Meghnath, for that. But moving on, now that we know, like how your early career was and some of the wins that you had in your early career, I would like to deep dive a little bit into that, because they often say that our early wins are what help us shape up our future as well, right? So what did you learn during those early wins of yours that helped you to reach where you are today, as the CEO of Lakshmi. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So, yes, I would like to share it with everyone in a story form, and I hope I do a
Absolutely.
good job. Yeah, so of course, I started my career with consumer banking, and consumer banking was picking up really well at that point in time. And I think the best role that I ever did in my life was a relationship manager role, and I still
Wow.
feel it's one of the best roles that the banking space offers. So, as relationship manager, of course, we used to do portfolio management, and we used to work across a lot of products, and
Hmm.
that is something I think which allowed me to go on and on because uh, you know dealing with a lot of products actually diversifies your entire it gives you a much larger canvas to
True.
work on.
True.
And I think that's what I got in my very first role, which actually allowed me to figure out, okay, what is it that I love the most, what is it that I want to do best, and what is it that I can really do well.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think a relationship manager was the first start to my career, and I was the top most in HDFC at that point in time. We had national level ranking. Okay,
Okay.
so all the RMs across the country were ranked one, two, whatever, thousand, 2,000,
Wow.
3,000. And I still remember, and I still have it with me, the fact that I was the number one RM in the entire country in
Huh.
HDFC Bank. And every month we used to have scorecards, and every month we used to my scorecard would run into 700%, 800%, and I think
Wow.
people also wondered as to how are we doing the scorecards right, because how can someone overachieve to such an extent. So yeah, I think that was a fabulous journey, and I won lots of competitions. So I think I traveled the whole world while doing banking, so that was one really great point. I won contests and traveled to Australia, traveled to Switzerland, and I think we had so it was a very competitive environment wherein all the RMs used to put in their best, and it was the start of the career, and you are so much full of passion and energy, and you want to make it big in the world, right? So that's how it started. Now,
Wow.
obviously, the first managerial role that came along was, of course, to become a branch manager, because that's
Hmm.
where you start managing the team. You also start, um, learning how to manage a profit center. You learn all the aspects of banking, the operational side, everything. Right. So I think the branch manager was the first step. And I think from then on, I changed a lot of roles. So I think the thing that worked best for me, Kamlika, is that I changed a lot of roles during my career.
All
So
right.
18 years into banking, and I think I've changed more than 10 roles in all
Wow.
those years. And I think I was taking a risk,
Hmm.
and that risk was paying off. I'm
Hmm.
sure that risk was paying off.
Absolutely.
So the risk was to try out new things. So I moved from consumer banking into head office role. I moved into digital banking. I moved into marketing. I moved into learning and development. I moved into a lot of things, into customer experience, customer service, neo banking. So I think that is one thing that has helped me get a 360-degree view of the entire banking spectrum, and that actually helped me when neobanking came along, because neobanking was a new thing for the entire industry,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
it required that holistic overview of how banking operates. So I have seen many people who make really good careers while moving on the ladder and going in a unidirectional way. However, my suggestion and what worked for me was taking risk and exploring a lot of different roles. And I think at the end of it, the vision and the entire uh, the spectrum, the outlook that it gives you is amazing. It's amazing, and I think that is helping me right now.
That is such an amazing story, Jasmine, because I remember, I was listening to some talk about women in the corporate world and stuff like that, and the glass ceiling and all of that. So, and that time I was just thinking, but what's the best way to break a glass ceiling? I mean, okay, we all know that it exists. I think listening to your story, I know the answer. If you can't break the glass ceiling, break the system, because that is exactly what you did over there. Just going ahead with that 700% target achievement. Wow, that is so inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. But I would love to urge our audiences, both in the LinkedIn live audio feed as well as on the video feed, if you have any questions, do feel free to come up on stage or drop a comment, and we would love to hear Jasmine's views on that. But carrying on with the conversation, now that we know some of your, the lessons that you learned from your early wins, I want to come back to what we're seeing today in the financial services world that we have today, and a lot has changed post COVID. So how do you think, the financial services is changing or is evolving now after COVID?
I think there's a big change, of course, because COVID was, of course, lasted really long. We never
I know,
expected it to last
I
for 2 to
know.
3 years. Having said that, I think the impact that COVID has is something that is going to stay permanent.
Hmm.
And the biggest impact that we have seen in the industry is, people have gone digital in a big way, and that is to stay. It is not just the consumers that have actually realized the power of digital. Of course they have realized the power of digital, because when you are not allowed to go out of the house, that's the only way you do business, you do
Yeah.
banking. So I
Yeah.
remember, when I was looking at digital banking in Kotak Bank, it was a herculean task to ask people to get onto mobile banking, net banking, and most of them would prefer to come into branches. Now, the reason why we would want people to shift to digital is because it is do it yourself, it is low cost for the bank.
Hmm. Hmm.
Coming to branches, going to ATMs, these are all high cost channels for the bank.
Correct.
So we wanted to divert people, and it was a task. We used to run lots of contests to actually push people to digital.
Hmm.
Uh, Post COVID, we saw that that change happened automatically, and we've seen that that change has remained, and it looks that it will be a sustainable change, a long-term change. Also, what came along were very innovative ways of doing business, very innovative business models, innovative KYC way of doing things which people never thought of. Like, for example, video
Video
KYC was
KYC, I
something
know.
nobody experimented, nobody thought of that, it will take off. But there
Correct.
was no option, there was no choice. And so video KYC came along, and I think that entire journey, the entire banking journey. So
Hmm.
while we had our mobile banking, internet banking, of course, since last many years, I think the entire journey, right from account opening to doing all your payments, doing buying all your insurance or your investments or your fixed deposits, doing everything that you need to do online is something that has happened post COVID. And I think that is a phenomenal change, and that's what has caused the emergence of so many new banks that we see. So of course, banks became open with APIs coming on.
Yeah.
Banks were also open to partnerships. They wanted to partner and see newer ways of expanding into markets, because now geographical presence no more mattered.
Correct.
Now, expanding the branch network was not a major requirement to go all India or a nationwide bank. So
Hmm.
I think a new breed of partnership business models started coming up, and I think the end customer is the one who has benefited.
True, true. So I still remember back in 2017, I think we had those very quirky Kotak Mahindra 811 bank apps. I think that, and that was what even, allured my mom to open a Kotak 811. She's by the customer of Kotak 811. So yeah, I think that was like a great job on that side. But we were talking
Right.
about some of the very interesting stuff that you've worked on, right? Neo banking was of course one of those interesting fintech area that you got to lead when you were at Kotak. So what, like, was that like the most interesting part of being a part of the fintech, or were there like other interesting stuff as well that you got to experience?
A lot of interesting things. So, neobanking was one of it. Of course, it was a great experience to launch NeoX. I think it
Hmm.
is the fastest growing neobank in the country, and we had a
Yeah,
record of opening 1 million accounts in 9 months. I think it's a world record.
true,
I don't
true.
think any neobank across the world has ever acquired so many customers in such a less time. So that
Amazing.
definitely, I think, a very good experience. And I think it was one of the first ones. So of course, Jupiter, Save, Epify, of course, everyone came along. But and every, I think all of these neobanks got launched in 2021, right? So post COVID, of course, COVID has played a part. But yes, I think these emerging business models. So we have
Hmm.
already seen Revolut and Monsters of the world, where it started in UK in 2015.
Yeah.
So then we have N26 in Germany, Chime. So there are a lot of Next in Brazil. So there are a lot of neobanking examples all across the world, and there are various kinds of neobanking models also that we see across the world. However, in India, I think 2021 witnessed the best neobanking growth in the industry, and the partnerships just worked. And
Hmm.
for the smaller banks, I think it came across as a very good opportunity because, of course, they cannot have the branch network of 4,000, 5,000, as the big banks will have. And hence, for them to actually reach to the last mile of the customers, actually reach to locations where they don't have branches, to reach to the tier 3, tier 4 cities, this was working out really well. The digital
Correct.
strategy, the digital way of acquisition. And we've
Hmm.
seen a lot of innovative models. So
Yeah.
one is the partnership model, one is a challenger bank within bank model also. So we've seen a lot of banks also creating a neobank within the bank
Yeah.
and going the digital way all out. And that entire digital strategy or the business model competes with the physical network. There are so that is a challenger bank concept that we have seen emerging in India in last 1 year.
Hmm.
And we've also seen hybrid models wherein the digital strategy also and playing an enabler role and facilitating the physical channel, and actually a new version of a digital model taking place
Hmm.
or taking shape, right? So there
Yeah.
are, I think, a lot of newer business models that have come, that have emerged last year, and I think the space is only growing
Very
with a
true.
lot of innovations happening. So we
Very true.
also had a fintech accelerator,
Oh, okay.
wherein yeah, so that was one thing on the innovation side, which I had launched, and I think I had a great experience running a fintech accelerator. We had some very good, overwhelming response from the startup industry for a lot of fintechs applying for the program, and we
Hmm.
had the best of mentors and experts
Wow.
on board. And finally, of course, we selected 7 startups. I think it was all there in the media. We selected 7 startups to to co-create products with them. So
Okay.
the startups bring something, some core product strength. The bank gives the technology support, the API sandbox, the marketing, compliance related guidance and support, and the mentorship that is required. And then, of course, the startups and the bank co-create the product and do a joint go-to-market. So, of course, that's still the program still goes on. But yeah, I think that's also something which is very innovative that's happening in this space.
Hmm.
um, yeah, and we had excellent use cases on financial inclusion. So the theme was financial inclusion and edutech, as was already announced, I think 6 months back.
Wow.
And we
Okay.
had some overwhelming response, especially in financial inclusion space.
I mean, with this, on the financial inclusion part, I think you at Lakshmi are also doing a lot, and we will come to that. I would want you to talk a little bit about that. But really, the value that you've been bringing, your answers, it's kind of preempted some of the questions I wanted to ask you. But just a quick plug, guys, if you are liking the conversation and if you would want to stay abreast with whatever is happening in the neobanking, digital banking space, or even the financial inclusion space, then you know what you have to do. You can see Dr. Jasmin B. Gupta's profile right there. If you are in the audio room, do give her a follow, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. You're going to get a ton more of information and knowledge that she would be sharing. So do just one small request from my side would be to please do follow Jasmine, because she's just amazing. But and I've seen this even when I was during my tenure at Axis Bank. Even they tried setting up, like, fintech within the bank, and they not necessarily, like, in popular, in mainstream media, there's this impression that banks or fintechs are going to be eating into banks share, and they're going to replace banks, so banks think of fintechs as a threat. But I see a lot of collaboration. What do you think, and what do you think, if they're a threat or a collaborator? How do you see the space moving?
No, I think a lot of collaboration is happening. I think threat is not the right way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
Yes, as I just mentioned in the fintech accelerator, the bank is supporting the fintech, and the fintech is bringing a lot of innovation, a lot of agility to the entire experience, and then they co-create and go to market together,
Hmm.
right? So that's just one example of how banks and fintechs collaborate together. I think neobanks, the way we are seeing in India, there is no way you can create a neobank without a bank's partnership, right? Because you have to ride on the
Banking
license
license.
of a licensed bank
Yeah.
till the time the central bank actually, decides to give away special licenses to neobanks. Now, in some countries, we have seen neobanks getting those specialized licenses. We don't know in India when that time is going to come. So I think the only way neobanks can grow is through the bank partnership. So that's of course very very critical, and
Hmm.
collaboration of course is the way forward. And I think banks are collaborating with fintechs on a lot of things, not just neobanks, even for a lot of digital transformation projects as well. We have seen fintechs coming out with a lot of new solutions, technological innovations, and
Yeah.
everything is ultimately helping banks become better. So we see a lot of innovations coming in red tag as well, even on the compliance side. So to support the banks on the compliance side, even on the legal side, even on insure tech. So I think there are ample opportunities for fintechs and banks to collaborate and come out with definitely very innovative solutions. And yes, I think the best thing that works for neobanks is that they give superior customer experience. So many a times banks deal with a lot of products and they have a lot of customers, and somewhere some place I think customer experience takes a back seat. That's where I think
Hmm.
neobanks fill the gap, and they actually, of course it's a digital only experience because that's what neobanking is all about. But that's the experience, I think. That's the gap that neobanks fulfill. So yeah, collaboration all the way, Kamlika.
Collaboration and co-creation, I think these were two words that you used a lot of. And I think this, what you were mentioning about how they are helping, you don't really need a physical bank to be present in a tier 3 city for you to be able to serve them. So neobanks and digital banks, they are in a way helping to improve financial inclusion in our country. So here is where I would want to, make like a segue into what Lakshmi is doing, and understand from you, how are you helping on that journey as well. Over to you, doctor.
Yeah, so Lakshmi is very close to my heart. We all know Lakshmi as the goddess of wealth. But having said that, I think the relationship between money and women is not has not been easy so far, right?
Hmm.
And mostly we have observed that women also shy away from having money conversations, and most of
So
the
true.
money decisions of women are being taken by the male member in the family.
So true.
So through Lakshmi, we are creating a money platform where we want to offer the entire financial world to them, and we want to do it very differently. Okay, so the first thing is, since money and finance doesn't come naturally to women, we want to make women comfortable talking about money. So we have a community where
Hmm.
women can come, they can have conversations of on money, they can ask questions. We have money coaches who guide them, who train them on a lot of financial products. We do a lot of boot camps, we do a lot of workshops to bring women up the curve on their financial knowledge, to make them financial savvy. So that's one thing that is very actively being done on the community. So Lakshmi is a very, very vibrant, very engaged community of women. We
Hmm.
have already impacted 1 lakh women so far, and I think, of course, we have plans to
Wow.
impact 20 million women in next 5 years.
Wow.
Um, that is the first thing. Now, having made money easier for them to understand, educating them, the next step is to offer them curated products. So we have products which are specifically curated for women. So on mutual fund side, we have specifically curated mutual fund portfolios
Hmm.
where women can actually, it's very easy for them to select. Okay, child education fund, okay, long term fund, okay, short term fund. They don't have to select from all the 400 mutual fund schemes available in the Indian market, because that's something that's going to make it very confusing and difficult
Overwhelming.
for them
Yeah.
to make any investment decision, right? So we have
Yeah.
curated portfolios, we make it easy, we give them calculators to help them plan, understand finance, plan, and then decide on the amount of investment. And we allow them to start with as small as 100 rupees, so that they learn, they experiment, and then they decide to start investing. Having said that, along with investments, we are also planning to offer savings account, fixed deposits, and of course the Lakshmi debit cards. Also, and of course the personal loans that come along, so that the entire, the save, spend, invest, borrow, all the financial requirements are taken care of on one money platform, and they don't have to go anywhere else. And women's needs are very, very specific, very, very specific. Like, for example, on a debit card, road assistance is not something that men may appreciate, but for women, road assistance is very critical. So
Okay.
that is one feature that women may always appreciate. So it's like, the products that we design are keeping the requirements of women in mind, and I think that's very important. Even on the health
Absolutely.
insurance, I think women
Hmm.
are always used to prioritizing their family
Very true.
over their own health. So
Very
that
true. Yeah.
actually becomes a push product for women segments, that you please prioritize your health first. So I think a lot of curated products on the way, on Lakshmi. And of course, we want to become a digital bank for women next 5 years roadmap.
I think I will be preempting the question that a lot of other women have. How do we sign up for Lakshmi?
It's very simple. You just have to download the app and get started. That's it. We are on iOS,
Amazing.
Android, yeah.
Before we move on, so I have like a fun rapid fire planned for you, Jasmine, and I hope you don't mind that. But I would just like to talk about some of the reactions that we're getting on the video live. So there is Poonam who's been enjoying the conversation right from the start. There's Meghnath who's saying it's your story was an amazing share, as is Kapil and Naresh as well. So I'm very thankful, and I'm so glad that everyone is able to resonate with your story. But with that said, I hope you're ready because we have some spicy sort of rapid fire questions for you, Jasmine.
Okay, best of luck to me.
So, first thing, would you rather build from scratch or would you just scale something that already exists?
uh, That's a tricky question, and I will not answer. I will not pick and choose one of the other because I will give you a third option. What I'll do is I'll build I'll build on the expertise and I'll collaborate to ensure that I don't reinvent the wheel,
Amazing.
and scale up.
Wow,
So it's
that's amazing.
building, collaborating, and scaling up.
I think, being competitive all your, early career helps you in navigating it in the most optimal way. But what an amazing answer, Jasmine. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right. The next question would be, would you rather collaborate with a big player or try and compete with them?
Both. Hmm, both. Yeah.
So another trick question over here for you. When you see women around you who aren't empowered, what do you feel? What do you most feel like? Do you feel empathy? Do you feel sympathy, or do you just want to help them grow? Like you just want to nurture them?
No, I definitely want to do something for them. So yes, I would want to help them.
Awesome. Okay, another quick question. If you could go back in your 20s, what would be the one advice that you would tell, 20-year-old Jasmine?
Okay. Um, Now that's a very difficult one, Monica. That is not that easy. Yeah. No, but I think I'm very happy with what Jasmine did in her 20s.
Amazing.
And yeah, so if given a choice, because I think 20s was the best time I think we all have to make it. But yes, there is one thing that I would definitely would advise my 20-year-old is, uh, you know, um, um, take more risks.
Oh,
So while I have taken risks, I think take more risks is what I would advise. Don't settle for convenience. Don't settle for. Always try to live on the edge.
and this is from someone who achieved
Who has
700%
tried
of her
this?
target.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right. One final question before we wrap up. And because this is for women who want to get into the fintech and finance segment, there is a lot of apprehension, that young women face today in terms of, oh my God, I don't know much of technology or I don't understand finance that much. What would be your advice to them?
I think when you have the desire to learn, you can learn anything. So there's nothing that you can't learn. I have seen the best of digital people learning finance. Way. I mean, uh, later on in their careers. I have seen finance people learning technology later on in their career. I have seen FMCG guys also getting into finance.
Wow.
So I think there is no, nothing that you cannot do if you set your mind to do it. You can keep on experimenting. You can keep on trying to figure out what is working for you. And I think most important is to find your passion. You know that ikigai is something that I really
Absolutely.
believe in, because once you have that, once you know that, I think then you are unstoppable. I think that's most important. Otherwise, everything can be learned.
Nice. All right, with that, I just have one closing question. If Dr. Jasmine B. Gupta were a book, what would the book be called?
Mm, endless.
Wow, amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jasmine. And to all your endless enthusiasm, aspirations, and dreams, I do hope all of them come true because that's going to be an amazing news for us women. And not only that, but we also have someone to look up to in the end. So I'm super glad that you agreed to do this, Jasmine. And I dearly, dearly do hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Of course, I enjoyed it a lot, Kamalika. Thank you so much. I think it was a wonderful conversation and yeah, amazing experience. Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
as I
Jasmine.
mentioned earlier, your enthusiasm and energy is so contagious. Yes. Best luck to you.
Thank you so much. And like we say, that is the end of conversation, but we will be back again. And I do hope to host Jasmine again in another conversation. So until then, have a great rest of the evening, guys. Don't forget to give Jasmine a follow, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.